Hey loves, this is Andréa Michelle, the #1 purpose educator in the world, and you're listening to the Finding Bliss podcast, episode number 88. Today we're going to discuss life is fair. Let's get into it.
We've all heard how different sciences and religion are, but are they really that different? In Finding Bliss, we'll explore how the rules of attraction really don't change between the two. Andréa Michelle, certified life coach and program creator, will show you how to find the perfect happiness you crave in the midst of chaos. We'll explore how you can create your own happiness and ignore the negative external factors in your life. We're so excited that you're joining with us in our journey to Finding Bliss.
Hey loves, guess what? I'm bringing Goal Setting Week back. Except this time, it's not going to be a week, but it's going to be a workshop. In fact, I'm hosting 2 separate live workshops. The Goal Setting Workshop will be held on Saturday, April 18th, and the Advanced Goal Setting Workshop will be on Saturday, April 25th. The last time I hosted Goal Setting Week, I was joined by over 150 women, and we busted 5 of the most common myths around goal setting. This time around, we're going to review what those common myths are because I think they're still prevalent in today's society, but I'm going to update the information so that we can deal with the uncertainty of COVID-19. During the Advanced Goal Setting Workshop, we're going to talk about the role of the conscious and unconscious mind. We're going to talk about the importance of intentions while setting your goals, how your emotions can affect your goals. We're going to break down the 3 types of energy needed to achieve your goals, which is the be, do, have model. And we're going to talk about creating well-informed goals to successfully achieve your goals and so much more. If you're feeling stuck and unsure of what your next steps are, then I would love for you to join me for both of these goal setting workshops on Saturday, April 18th and April 25th. Hey loves. Welcome back to the Finding Bliss podcast. And if you are new around these parts, welcome. I am so very glad that you are here. I am humbled and I am extremely grateful for your presence, because I know that there are so many wonderful, amazing podcasts that you can be listening to right now. And so the fact that you are here, that you hit play, you downloaded, you subscribe to this one is absolutely humbling. And I am so grateful. And I just always want you to know that, that I really, truly appreciate your presence. So today's episode is one that it really, I think, maybe, I don't know, it goes against our culture's current belief. But I'm going to say it, and I want you to bear with me, even if after I say it, you don't agree with me. You are free to just stop listening, but I will ask that you not stop listening, that you hear my thought process all the way through, because at the end of the day, I think that you might agree with me. What I'm going to say is that life is fair. Okay? I want to put that out there. And I am speaking as a Black woman who grew up, had divorced parents, lived in some of the worst neighborhoods in the city of Milwaukee, was extremely poor. We got free lunch. My mother had food stamps. She worked, sometimes she worked 2 jobs to provide for us. We lived in some of the worst neighborhoods. I think I said that already. And not only that, but as a young girl, I was called nigger in kindergarten. When we went to a suburban school, we were bused from our neighborhood in the inner city out to a suburban school. So my family was one of 2 Black families in the school at the time. Also throughout my schooling, when I became a sophomore, we moved out to the suburbs again, making my family one of maybe 3 families at our school at the time, being called nigger again, being told by the boys that you're cute, but my family won't like you, having people ask me once they learned that I moved from the city of Milwaukee, having white people in high school ask me if I've ever been shot at and is Milwaukee really ghetto, and then deciding to go to school a little bit later in life, having to deal with people's comments about me and them telling me that I may not be cut out for this, and then successfully climbing the corporate ladder and having white people look at me and tell me or even ask me, are you sure you belong here? I walk down the streets in our suburban neighborhoods, having the police pull me over while I'm walking with a backpack coming from the library. And I know they saw me, asking me where I'm going, where I'm coming from, basically harassing me, asking me if I know of any black men. And I'm like, yeah, every male in my family is black at that particular point. Yes, I know lots of them because they were quote unquote looking for a guy. Again, I am telling you that life is fair coming from the perspective of someone who is a part of a quote unquote marginalized group. Not only am I coming from one marginalized group, but really two marginalized groups, female and black. And when I was 260 pounds, that was a third marginalized group because I was extremely overweight. I was actually obese. And even within the black community, being dark skinned, that was another marginalized group. But I ran all of that down just so you understand that when I tell you that life is fair, I'm not telling you this because I've had this cushy life and this cushy background and things have always worked out for me and everything that I've desired, it has come to pass for me. I'm not telling you this from that perspective. I'm telling you this from the perspective of someone who has pretty much had to struggle and fight and work hard my entire life to get the things that I have today. My perspective is really truly one based on experience. And even though I've had so much trauma, I've experienced so much trauma in my life, I am still coming before you today and I am telling you that life is fair. Now, here's why I think that a lot of people don't believe life is fair. I believe that a lot of people feel like life is not fair because they are operating from a different set of rules. I'll say that again. I believe that a lot of people say that life isn't fair because they are not operating from the same set of rules that are put before us. So, what do I mean when I say that? Again, I have to speak from my frame of reference because I want you to know that it's real for me and this is where I'm speaking from it. And again, you may disagree with me. And if you have any questions, I would love for you to email me and my team at hello@andreamichelle.com and let's talk about it. I know I'm in the United States of America. I know that racism exists. This country was founded on racist principles and beliefs. And even while they were writing the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and all of these things, and they were proclaiming that men were equal, those who were proclaiming that all men were created equal and had the right to pursue of happiness, they were slave owners. Right? So the intention behind the document itself is not pure. I mean, that's just based on the fact that you're saying everybody's equal, yet you're not treating everyone equal. That's hypocrisy in and of itself. And I don't want to get off into that. This is not a political discussion. These are just facts. If you don't believe me, go back and do research. So what I'm saying, these are facts, right? So as a black woman in the US of A, I understand that there is a different set of rules for me than there are for white people. And even down to the workplace. Now, I've said before that I've worked in places where I truly felt the racism was so rampant. And in those places, I put my head down, didn't stay there very long. I did what I needed to do, whether it's moved to a different department within the company or left the company altogether. But, I've also worked in companies where I really truly felt valued, and they didn't necessarily overtly, if you will, practice racism or show racism towards me, but it was definitely subtle, because I could have a conversation with someone and get loud just a little bit, and then I would be perceived as the angry black woman, or they would say, Andrea, calm down, or something like that. But my white counterpart would have the same expression as me, get a little loud. And it was that even with women, I'm not even talking about men, with women, oh, she's just passionate about this subject, and that's why she's responding that way. So I knew this going into every corporate position that I've had. So I would intentionally say, okay, when I am in this situation, this is what my response is going to be. Now, I want to make it clear. I was still who I am. My personality was still there. If someone said something funny, I would laugh loud. Every once in a while, when I get excited, I get loud. And so we'd be having a conversation. I would get loud. My personality was still there, but I always knew that there were certain things that if I disagreed with someone, I knew that my approach had to be different, again, than my white counterpart's approach. Because if I disagreed, then I'm the angry black woman, and I'm not being cooperative, and I'm not being a team player. But if she disagreed, then no, she's very strong, and she's very smart, and she's very knowledgeable. So I get that. And so what I did was I just made sure that my approach to these things were in check. Now, some of you may be saying, well, Andrea, that's not fair. And to that I say, why isn't it fair? If I know going into it that as a black woman, I am going to be looked upon differently than a white woman. If I know that going into it, then why wouldn't I make adjustments so that everything will work out for me? And guess what? I didn't feel any less of a person by recognizing the fact that, okay, they're going to look at my response and they're going to look at Sarah's response. Even if we have the exact same response, they're going to interpret them totally different from one another. Even if we said the exact same words, they would look at mine and think it was combative and disruptive and not being a team player. And they would look at Sarah's and say she's passionate and intelligent and she knows what she's doing. And that's why she responded that way. So if I know that going into it, that's the rule, then I can either decide to play by that rule or not play by that rule. But either way, if that rule exists and I decide not to play by that rule, then I can't simply say that life is not fair, because that's the rule of the game. And a lot of us want to pretend like these rules, and in sociology they call them norms. Norms are unwritten rules that are a part of society. Some of the norms that we have here in the U.S. is that women will shave their legs and shave their underarm hair and just really shave all of the hair that's visible from their body, right? There are no rules that say, okay, a woman has to shave the hair from her body, but that is a norm. That is an unwritten rule that's a part of our society. Now, there are places in Europe and Africa, and I'm not sure about Asia, where women growing hair, like, that's okay. That's acceptable. The norm for them is not to shave their hair, right? So that's not a rule that they have. But if you know that there are rules, that there are norms set in place, and you decide not to play to those rules, which you have every right to decide not to, you cannot then say, or actually you can say it, but it doesn't make it true, that life is not fair. And I think a lot of us get so caught up in arguments and so caught up in disagreements because we keep thinking that life is supposed to be fair, right? Like I have a lot of friends, a lot of white friends for whom I am extremely grateful for. When they see racism and racist acts, they get so angry and they get so caught up in it, which they should, because racism is absolutely wrong. And, you know, my response to them is so, I don't want to say nonchalant, but, you know, I'm just so calm in my response. And they're like, how can you be? It's not fair, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, it's not fair for you because perhaps you aren't necessarily aware of the rules that are in play. Again, I want to make this clear. I am not saying that racism is okay. I am not saying that discrimination is okay. I am not saying that bias is okay. I am not saying that prejudice is okay. That is not what I am saying. Neither am I condoning or justifying it. All I am simply saying is that if you decide, it's a choice. All of us have free will. If you decide that you want to play this game called life, then it is your responsibility to make yourself aware of the rules of engagement. Because if you are not aware of the rules of engagement, then you will find yourself being depressed and anxious because you will think that life is not fair. And what I want you to understand, that there is a difference between fairness and being right or wrong. There's a difference between that. And so I am not saying that just because there are norms that say, you know, women should shave the visible hair in their body, just because that norm exists, I'm not saying that women have to abide by that. There are millions of women, even in the U.S., who decide that, you know what, I am not shaving my hair, and that's okay. But then that woman can't go on to say, oh, it's not fair that I should have to shave. It's like, well, I mean, you know, it's kind of a norm. It is what it is. And you're making a choice not to follow it, because again, all of us have a choice. We can choose to abide by the rules of engagement, or we can choose not to. But either way, it's a choice. And because it's a choice, then that makes whatever the consequences of that choice fair. It's like when some of the news anchors on Fox News, they say all of these things that are racist, and people begin to tell brands to boycott this show. And then we have the fans of the show who's saying, oh, it's his First Amendment right to do that. And they're 100% correct. It is this anchor's First Amendment right to freedom of speech and say whatever it is that they want to say. But they are not free to choose the consequences of their actions. And so, yes, it is their right to decide, I am going to play by this rule of freedom of speech. They have all rights to do that. At the same time, the same people who are demanding that these shows pull their money from this particular show, they are also exercising their right to freedom of speech, and that is them making their choice. So you can't say that, oh, it's unfair that these advertisers pulled out from this show because this person was exercising their First Amendment right. Yeah. Sure you can. Because the people who don't agree with that are also exercising their First Amendment rights. And it is still up to each individual organization as to whether or not they are going to decide whether or not they want to pull advertising dollars from this specific news anchor. So everybody is making a choice along the way. And so because people are making a conscious choice along the way, the news anchor consciously making a choice to be racist, the people consciously making a choice to pressure the advertisers from putting their dollar there, the company making a choice whether or not to pull or not pull their dollars from this particular show. It's all a matter of choices. And so that means that whatever happens as a result, it is fair. It's fair. It's fair. Because people are playing by the rules or deciding not to play by the rules that are in front of them. And so, beloved, it's the same with your life. Life is fair. Life is fair because there are a set of rules or laws or principles that govern life. And we have to decide whether or not we want to learn the rules of engagement and then play by the rules of engagement. And if we decide not to play by the rules of engagement, again, you can, but it's very difficult to then make the argument of fairness because you've made the choice not to engage or not to follow those rules. And so what I'm simply saying is, if you take a step back and look at all of the choices that you have made in your life, if you take a step back and you really reflect on them, you will find that life is fair. It's fair. And each and everything that happens to you throughout your life, it's not that these things are happening to you, but they're actually happening for you. These things are happening to help you to grow and to mature and to develop and to become a person of character. And again, it's a choice that you are making. So decide whether or not you want to learn the rules of life, number one. Number two, decide whether or not you want to follow the rules in life. And number three, whatever the outcome is, just know that it's fair. Just know that you are receiving exactly what it is that you require. And that may be negative consequences. At the same time, it may be positive consequences. But you get to decide. You decide all of your actions, and you decide your behavior. You decide how you're going to show up. And so the consequences of however it is that you decide to show up, it's fair. It's fair. And as I said in the beginning, it's a paradigm shift for some of you. So here's an affirmation to help you bridge that gap. I have a choice as to who it is that I want to be. Whatever it is I decide to do, it is a choice that I am making. I am everything I need to be right now. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the podcast and the podcast in general. It would be such a great honor if you would subscribe and review it for me. And if you've enjoyed it that much, I hope you'd share it with your friends. I'm looking forward to us journeying together to find our bliss. Would you like to build your confidence and, more importantly, empower yourself? If so, then I'd like to invite you to download my 23 affirmations to build confidence and empower yourself. These were beautifully created so that you can print them out, hang them in your office, home office, bathroom, or wherever you need to see them on a daily basis to build your confidence and empower yourself. Please download them today. Are you a leader who's ready to discover your purpose and your passion, find balance, reconnect with, and find your identity so that you can create more happiness, fall in love with yourself, make more money, and live an abundant life? If that is you, then I would love for you to join my brand new Facebook group called the Confident Women's Collective. In this group, the one thing that we realize is that we are a force of one, but a movement collectively. So if you are ready to discover who you really are, stand in your power, walk in your purpose so you can experience more love and happiness, then I would love for you to join the Confident Women's Collective.